Dumelang ma Africa, re a le amogela gape mo Rise. Tonight's conversation is about alcohol and our relationship with it. South Africa is ranked #1 when it comes to the most variety of alcohol to choose from. Can you imagine? #1. Is this really something we want to get excited about? And I want to say to you, my co-host, after a long day of shooting in studio, you know, sometimes I'd like to have a nice glass of alcohol or two. And I'm curious as to your drinking habits. Do you drink at all, and why?
I don't actually. Surprise, surprise. I don't drink at all. And I think it's because you know, like from a young age, my grandma has always despised alcohol, so it wasn't there. Even when I grew up, I had no real desire, or whatever. More, obviously, it was like, we should try that, but no, it's never really been a huge thing for me. Yeah.
Nyiko, what about you?
I drink. I drink socially.
Don't we all?
I like to have a glass of different things. I like to try different things. I'm not excessive though, because I know my alcohol tolerance is very low. But I had to learn, you know, I had to make a couple of mistakes to learn that I can't take a lot, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have it with food also. You know, there's ways to enjoy it. You know, It's not limited to the actual thing.
Okay, and what about you, Ms. Ramafoko?
For now, it's a little bit difficult. Kinali a thyroid problem, and how you feel when you have a thyroid problem, we could and that only happens when you are not consistent with your treatment. So alcohol gives me the same effect. So I can I go high. Alcohol. So my plaque goes completely when I drink alcohol.
Okay, it's very important, and that's something you also mentioned, Nyiko. So we talk about 1, we talk about 2, and I noticed both of us says well, 1 or 2.
Yeah,
1 tequila. But the point is, there's nothing wrong with alcohol.
Yeah.
However, most of us do not stop at 1 or 2 or 3. We go overboard. So how do we know how to drink?
That is where the problem is. I mean, the latest WHO report, in South Africa, our drinking, we binge drink. Ne? So you'll hear people saying, we have itafule beli mnyama. You know, people drink to a stupor. Baphuza ukuthi njena umuntu angalazi igama lakhe, angazi ukuthi ufike kanjani ekhaya, angazi ukuthi uhambe nobani,
angazi ukuthi wenzeni,
angazi ukuthi wenzeni.
Ha re binge kana re bua ka gore in one sitting, gore like in one sitting when you drink a lot. It's not like over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So it will appear that other countries bona ba no over a long period of time. Ronara dula mo like no so.
I mean, but then how can we help it? Because like biala, you know, you don't seek it out. It's not hidden. It's in your face. It's on TV. It's on media. Baholo, baroma, barafama watolo, barayang spazing. Samoreka, 1 hour 4 years. So it's really good.
Yeah.
You know, going to buy alcohol for an older person in the family, you know.
Which means I normalize it. Because then you were saying it's okay. Then, and we don't blink at that. And I think that's part of what is wrong with it, because all of us should be concerned. It makes it acceptable, and therefore, how do you know that this child is buying it for themselves? Which is how the first drink that I had with my cousins was because and that's how we got to buy it, you know? I know that young people in particular, old people, we're older, and we even have that pressure. Because there's pressure, isn't there?
I don't drink. You know, I made that decision from a very early age. And also, I've looked at how it affects my peers as well. And I'll be there and I'll be like, but look at what you're doing when you're drunk. And I'm already very naturally hyper. And my friends say I'm naturally drunk on life.
Right.
So now if I were to add another something, it might get out of control. So I just don't want to put myself in that situation where I'll be compromised or I'll be victimizing myself as well, you know, by drinking. And so I think I'm scared.
Right.
There's an element of fear as well.
Right.
I don't know, I won't be in control, and I don't like not being in control.
Well,
so,
let's talk about the decisions that we make, because that it becomes critical. The decision is a doji hampe. Here's what alcohol does. It loosens your inhibitions. So you become less shy, and therefore it affects the decision tse o di etsang.
Yeah.
And so it is possible gore ga re tlhapetswe, we make the worst decisions.
Yeah.
For example, you know, there's something e bitswang di beer goggles. Gore wa tsoga go seng go na le motho o robetseng mo thoko ga gago and ga o gopole ile gore ga mo lebeletse like if you were sober, you would have never.
Yeah.
You would have never. You're like,
Yeah.
what's agala gona mo?
Yeah.
But yet because o no nule thata abuti or osi ona sheba ga a le nice ka nako eo
Yeah.
ya nong wa itshola.
These young social events say, bacha no, the exam, they go to a park, it's masses of
Yeah.
them, you know, some of them are under the age, you know, but because the older people, the older young people, 18-year-olds, whatever, 16-year-olds are looking at them like, wow, you know, that's what's cool, that's the in thing to do.
That's the point.
And now they go there, Lukhona, and they encourage or they celebrate when young people are under the influence and make wrong decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
And they spread pictures, they spread ugly images on social networks. It's almost a thing, like it's entertainment value.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
Yeah.
After the break, we'll be joined by the author of the book When Hope Whispers, and her name is Zoleka Mandela. Let's go ya felo.
Siyanamukela futhi isivakashi sethu esilandelayo umuntu owenze lokhu thina abaningi esingakwazi ukwenza by confronting her hardships in public. She published her tell-all memoir When Hope Whispers in 2013. Kgomotso and Nyiko are joined by Zoleka Mandela on the couch. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Lebo and Zoleka. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, girl, you went into the laundry basket, took out all your clothing, and hung them up for the world to dry, to see,
sure did.
which must have been very difficult, particularly because in Black communities, it's not something that we're encouraged to do. What motivated you to do that?
I think firstly, you know, the things that I've gone through, my experiences in life, are certainly not new to humankind at all.
Right.
And I think it's very important for people to know that, you know, despite who I am and who they think I am and what family I come from, that I have the same problems as everybody else does. You know, it doesn't matter who you are in society. You know, these things that I've gone through, the addiction, you know, the cancer, the loss of my 2 kids can penetrate anybody's life. So it was important for me to put it out there, just so I could, you know, instill some kind of hope in the lives of others.
And when you had your first drink, you were 9. Do you remember why or, you had your first drink?
At that particular time, Beskanga, you know, we were just being silly, being mischievous. I found alcohol in the house and I consumed the whole bottle. That incident, as traumatic as it was, wasn't enough to stop me because by the age of 13, I was, you know, a drinker. I used to black out, you know, that kind of thing.
So when did you know that you had a problem? When did you...
I think when I knew that there was some element of dependency, that I needed it to make me feel a certain way. I think in my own head, my young mind at that time, it was, you know, maybe I needed to, you know, to feel more free and, you know, less comfortable. You know, if I'm at a party and I'm drinking, you know, I'm more likely to be, you know, better off drinking because I'm not so much shy, because I used to, you know, be quite shy.
And you'd
as
hide
a
it.
kid. Yeah.
What I'm curious about is that people with secrets, I mean, that's a big secret to keep at a very young age.
Yeah.
And people who are alcoholics usually will hide it well for a while. How did you hide it? And you mentioned in your book several times the sneakiness of sort of like either bunking school and all that other stuff.
I think it was, you know, finding ways of being able to drink. And so I'd hang out with people that were drinking. So that made it easier.
Right.
You know, there'd be nobody there to say to me, listen, you stop drinking and, you know, that kind of thing. But because people I chose to hang around with were, you know, people who used, just like me.
And there was a part in the book that got me really scared.
Yeah.
You pass out at your Aunt Zenani's house, you guys are having a party, the
Yeah.
parents are not there, and somebody finds 4 boys taking you somewhere you thought in a drunken stupor in a way that maybe they're just helping you to go to bed, and literally stops them. And what stopped me in my tracks is when you say, I was lucky. That's so the experience of a lot of South African girls.
These guys came in, and I remember they literally picked me up, one limb each. You know, one was carrying my leg, the other one the other leg, the arm, and that kind of thing. And so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're taking me upstairs, but you know, to put me to sleep. But why 4 guys? You know, I'm so drunk at that point. And as we're walking, as they carry me out of the bar area, you know, there's a staircase going upstairs, and then there's the guest bathroom just to the left of that. And I remember, you know, thinking, okay, they're gonna go upstairs, but that quick turn, you know, into the bathroom area. We used to hang out with a group of guys who were, I think they kind of served as our bodyguards actually, because, you know, the guy actually saved me from one of what could have been one of the worst experiences of my life.
If you were to talk to yourself as a 16-year-old, because we're talking to young women all across the country, what would you say to your 16-year-old self?
I lost my virginity because I felt like I needed to keep this person in my life. And I think I would have told myself, you know, it's okay to wait. You know, going all the way with this guy is not going to make him stay, and it certainly won't make him start looking elsewhere. You know, and that it's okay really to just, you know, say no and you know, love yourself first, and, you know, take time to get to know yourself and not depend on, you know, what other people think of you to make yourself feel better, because at the end of the day, that is what I was searching for. That I was so desperate for attention, so desperate for love, and, you know.
That you would say drink more, like, so the act of drinking or the act of substance abuse became something that you would share with somebody that you thought loved you or that you were in a relationship with.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's that, and, you know, I drank for a number of reasons. You know, I did encounter, you know, sexual abuse and physical abuse at a very young age, well into my teenage years. So it was also trying to numb that, you know, the feelings towards that, feeling angry, feeling hurt, feeling, you know, resentment towards myself. I felt like, you know, surely there must have been something wrong with me for it to happen so many times. You know?
But you know what's scary about that, and I'm so glad you mentioned it, Zoleka, is that is the experience of most of us. Most Black South African women are sexually abused by elders who are supposed to be taking care of us, or older boys, sometimes women, and we've been raped. I just kind of feel sometimes so frustrated that, do our men hate us so much? What is it about us that makes us sitting ducks, so that men can just use us as if we're nothing? But it's actually, and that's something that I want young women out there to know, is that it's not just you, and that's why it's so important for you to write this book, and why I was grateful that you did put all your laundry out there for all of us to kind of learn from. How do you think your relationship with your children has changed you?
I feel like I'm continuously being given a second chance to be a better parent. And I'm just so happy that, you know, they chose me as their mother.
And then with this long transition and the journey that you've been through, do you have fears of relapsing?
No, I don't. I don't. You know, I always say that, you know, I truly believe that my daughter would still be alive today had I not been using, had I not been on drugs, high on cocaine and drunk on alcohol. You know, I chose all of these things, you know, before my own kids. I chose the alcohol, the drugs, and, you know, the relationship with men, and, you know, the sex and that kind of thing over my own kids. And I really feel like if I had been the mother that my children truly deserve, that, you know, my daughter would honestly still be alive today. So that is something I'm always thinking, you know. I have way too much to lose. You
debunk the myth that some people have it all, even with some really, really amazing and famous grandparents. Your pain is still your pain. So thank you very much for writing the book, When Hope Whispers. Please be sure to get it.
Thank you.
Yes, there is immense bravery in acknowledging that we are having trouble in life, because people judge us for being weaker, hey? So, listen to I feel, Rabo.
Welcome back. Alcohol abuse doesn't just affect the individual. It increases violence, crime and accidents, and it also impacts on education and the economy, meaning a hefty price that society pays. But before we get into more details on this, uKhanye uye waphuma wayokhuluma no Wayne Minnaar, the official spokesperson of the JMPD. Let's take a look.
So we caught up with the Metro Police spokesperson, Mr. Wayne Minnaar. Hi, sir. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good. How much of a problem is drinking amongst young people?
Oh, it's a serious problem because we find a lot of young people, especially over the festive period and over weekends, drinking a lot of alcohol and then after having consumed the alcohol, going onto the roads and driving. They drive into objects, they drive into poles.
They drive into people.
They drive and kill and injure innocent people and themselves.
How much is drinking and walking a problem? Is that a huge problem for you?
Yes, drinking and walking has also increased over the past few years, and we are finding a lot of people going out at night and drinking at taverns and at clubs, and then walking at night and crossing busy roads. Remember, when one consumes alcohol, one's perception of speed and distance is affected.
Where and when are these incidents more common?
These incidents of drunken driving happen on Friday nights and Saturday nights, mostly in the early hours of the morning. And that is when we find that young people get involved in accidents and they die.
So you spoke about not going over one drink.
That's good.
So if one goes over that drink, what happens when they get arrested?
The drunken driver gets taken to a police station where they are placed in a police cell. Now, at the police station, you are deemed to have committed a very serious offense, which is considered a criminal offense, and you will be put into the same cell and be treated the very same as any other criminal. My advice is, if you're going to be drinking alcohol, don't drive at all. Have someone else drive for you.
You eat here and then later on you go drink while you go Mxit. And then after you drink, who takes who home? How does that work? Do you walk home after that, Lazama?
Usually he drives home.
So he drives home?
Yeah, it means he's the one who's looking after me.
Oh, all right. But you'll be drunk though. How do you drive home drunk? Aren't you scared of being caught by police?
It's only 2 minutes.
Only 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes drive and then we go home.
But things can happen in 2 minutes. Don't you ever get scared for I don't know, someone might do something to you when he's drunk?
No, not really, because usually if there's a fight or anything or something that concerns your safety, the owner always makes sure that his staff members come and solve the problem. They're always walking around, looking after the people, making sure that you're safe, asking you questions, are you alright, are you fine? So I don't think so.
Lebo, I'm going to ask you, Kgomotso, your Soul City hat, Yano. So we know that Soul City has been instrumental on placing the issue of alcohol abuse on a national agenda. So please tell us more about the Phuza Wise campaign.
Siqale iPhuza Wise as a campaign for violence reduction, in fact. And masenza research, we found out that alcohol is linked to so much abuse and causes of unnatural death. So we really did this campaign, Uguti, if we can really improve on and control, for an example, where we sell alcohol, how we sell alcohol, how we consume alcohol, we would also be able to have a drastic reduction in all forms of violence.
Can I just put this in perspective, actually? Do you know that the revenue that is made by the alcohol industry is at 17 billion per year, okay? It's actually 16 billion per year.
Yeah.
The cost to society of the effects, the terrible effects of alcohol are 17 billion.
Yeah.
Just to put it in perspective, that it costs so much.
And that fact is important because South Africa, in the WHO report, World Health Organization report, consumes 6 billion liters of pure alcohol, not beer, like pure alcohol. If you were to take out the pure alcohol, 6 billion liters. And we forget that alcohol is a drug.
Yeah, but I mean, as a young person, I mean, can you blame us when it's bombarded? We're bombarded everywhere, right? Like in media, it's glamorized. I mean, when you think of success, it's not just the hardworking car and whatever, it's the ability.
You have your
do you know,
whiskey and
you're
your
attending these high-end parties or whatever, but there's alcohol involved, you know. This somehow, it's a symbol of success.
Absolutely.
You know, that's
Well,
what,
it's
that's
not,
what
it's
we-
not.
It's not.
It's sold.
It's not, but it's sold
as a symbol
that.
of success.
It's sold as that,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's the thing. Alcohol is a drug,
It's a
and that's
drug.
what we don't talk about.
Yes, that's
when we
not
talk
what
about
we
it,
talk
is a
about.
drug.
Yeah.
But don't you think as South Africans we have like a cultural attachment to alcohol?
No,
And-
even if you say that, you must understand where this culture comes from.
Okay.
Utshwala bethu besintu, ne?
Yeah.
The alcohol content was, the one that is done at home before, was very low. What did the apartheid government do? Iye yafaka ama beer houses emalogishi and produced the alcohol themselves. Ukuthi abantu abamnyama, let's keep them drunk so that they don't even cause a revolution. You must remember, the brain develops only, it's fully developed only when you are 25. It means between 18 to 25, you are affecting your brain. So we are having 26-year-olds and above who are pretending like adults, but in fact, their brain stopped growing when they were 13.
If we look at the harmful effects, alcohol affects 17.5 million of South Africans directly and indirectly, in fact.
I like
And
the
also-
indirectly aspect you
Exactly. I mean,
mentioned.
with the harmful effects, I mean, let's look at sexual behaviors when mama are owner a shebeen at home. So those drunk men, baya kobo mam, baya koba
Age
nembatenye,
rates,
and they end up
right?
raping us and they end up sexually assaulting us physically. There's so much mess linked with alcohol. And I think that's one of the things that really scares me. If you drink, you don't have control of it. I mean, you go out, you go have sex with random strangers without a condom, and we spread HIV and all the STIs.
Okay, now this is sounding like a funeral for alcohol. Oh, alcohol, look
Let's
at so
bury it then.
But here's the point. It's like, we're not saying don't drink, but we're saying watch how you drink because it's going to affect everything else in your life, essentially.
And that is why our campaign is not Ungaphuzi, it's Phuza
Phuza
Wise,
wisely.
you know? So let's acknowledge that people will drink, but let us also acknowledge that there must be controls because in fact, they are taking in a drug.
Yeah.
And for every drug, there is a control.
Yeah, and there's consequences. Thank you so much for that. Over 30% of our population has a problem with alcohol or is at the risk of having one. Let's free ourselves from this unhealthy hold. Re lebogile thata ma-Afrika gore le be le rona kajeno. And thank you so much to our lovely guest, Zoleka Mandela, for sharing her story with us, and my co-hosts in the studio, and of course, the young women who are here with us every week in studio. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Mxit, and Facebook. Good night, South Africa, and see you next week.